Here's what nobody tells you before you buy a cleaning company. You picture mops, a client list, maybe a couple vans with the logo on the side, some rags, some Windex, a crew in matching polos showing up at 8 in the morning. Simple, low-tech, easy to understand. Here's the problem with that picture. None of that is actually the business. What you're really buying is a trust distribution machine. A system for getting total strangers to hand you the keys to their homes and offices. And trust is one of the hardest things on earth to manufacture consistently across 30 employees you will never fully vet the way you'd vet yourself. That's the reframe that matters here, and it's the spine of everything else in this video. People assume this is a labor business. It is actually a liability and reputation business that happens to use labor as its delivery method. Every real decision you make as the owner, who you hire, how you price a job, whether you're properly bonded, how you handle the one client who says something went missing, traces back to a single question. Can this person be trusted alone in a stranger's space, and can you prove it if something goes wrong? Keep that question in your head. We're coming back to it at the end, because it explains almost everything else that happens in this business. So let's talk about what it actually costs to get into this. Starting a residential cleaning company from scratch typically runs $8,000 to $25,000 before you're functionally operational. That covers basic supplies, a few $100s of commercial-grade equipment per crew, your LLC formation, general liability insurance, and bonding. Bonding matters more than people think, because commercial clients and a surprising number of residential customers will ask if you're bonded before they even ask your price. And if the answer is no, you're out of the running before you've set a number. If you go the franchise route instead, which a lot of first-timers choose because the brand recognition does real work for you up front, you're looking at $40,000 to $120,000, covering the franchise fee, initial marketing spend, and a few months of working capital to get you through the slow start. And working capital is where new owners actually get killed. Not from one big expense, from a slow, quiet bleed. You'll spend 2 to 4 months, sometimes longer in a saturated market, building your first real client base. And during that stretch, your revenue is inconsistent while your costs stay fixed. Insurance, a phone line, booking software, gas, your own unpaid hours spent quoting jobs that don't close. The mistake that actually kills people isn't underpricing, though that happens plenty too. It's underestimating the runway. People budget for the vacuum and the uniforms. Nobody budgets for the 5 months of thin, lumpy revenue before word of mouth and recurring contracts actually stabilize the schedule. You need 6 months of operating expenses sitting in reserve before you even start. Not because you're being pessimistic, but because that's genuinely how long trust takes to build in a market that has never heard your name. Now here's the part of this industry almost nobody explains correctly, and it's the single most important number in this entire business. Take 2 jobs and put them side by side. Job 1, a one-time deep clean on a house that just sold. Big scope, 3 cleaners, 5 hours of work, billed at $450. Job 2, a recurring bi-weekly clean for a family. 90 minutes, 1 cleaner, billed at $110. On paper, job 1 looks like the obvious win. $450 in a single afternoon feels like real money. The kind of number that makes you want to chase more jobs exactly like it. But walk the math with me slowly. The moment that one-time job ends, it produces exactly $0 of future revenue. And it cost you real marketing spend to land in the first place. Spend that's now completely gone, fully burned, never coming back. The biweekly client, at $110 every 2 weeks, generates about $2,860 a year. Over an average 3-year residential relationship, that's more than $8,500 off a single account, for a fraction of the acquisition cost of the one-time job. The boring, small, recurring contract is worth roughly 19 times more than the flashy job that looked like the bigger win in the moment. Not 5 times, not 10 times, 19 times. From a job that looks completely unremarkable on paper. This is exactly why owners who actually build wealth in this industry chase recurring contracts almost exclusively, and treat one-time deep cleans purely as a lead generation tool to get a foot in the door, not as the business itself. Let's follow $100 of revenue all the way through this business and see what's actually left standing at the end, because the margin story here surprises most people. $100 comes in from a client. Labor is the biggest line item by a wide margin, and it's not close. Between the cleaner's hourly wage, payroll taxes, and workers' comp, it eats $42 to $50 depending on your local wage market. Cleaning supplies and consumables, chemicals, rags, equipment wear and tear, roughly $4. Vehicle costs, gas and maintenance moving crews between jobs all day, another $5. Insurance and bonding, spread across your total job volume, about $3. Marketing and client acquisition, especially before referrals really start carrying weight, averages $8. Admin, scheduling software, booking platforms, customer service time spent handling reschedules and complaints, $4. And then there's the line almost everyone forgets entirely: breakage and damage claims, the spilled bleach on hardwood floor, the shattered vase, which averages roughly $2 per 100 billed once you spread it across enough jobs over a full year. Add all of that up, somewhere between $68 and $76 gone before you've paid yourself a single cent. What's left over is $24 to $32 of actual owner profit per 100 billed. Not nothing, not huge either. Thin and entirely dependent on you running a genuinely tight operation, because every single one of those line items creeps upward the moment you stop watching it closely, week after week. Now the hidden trap. And this one is specific to cleaning, not some generic small business risk you'd hear about in any industry on earth. It's key person and key client dependency. And in this business, the two compound in a genuinely brutal way. On the labor side, your best cleaners, the ones clients specifically request by name, the ones who've built a real personal relationship with the homeowner or the office manager over months of showing up, are also the easiest people in the world to poach. It takes one client quietly offering your top cleaner $200 cash to just come clean for them directly off the books, cutting you out entirely. And you have almost no legal recourse, because non-competes on hourly cleaning staff are nearly unenforceable in most states, and practically impossible to monitor even if they were. This happens constantly, and most new owners never see it coming until they lose their best employee and their biggest account in the very same week. Because more often than not, it's the exact same event. On the client side, if you're running commercial contracts, a single office building or a single property management company can represent 15 to 25% of your monthly revenue all by itself. And commercial cleaning contracts typically carry 30-day cancellation clauses, sometimes even shorter. That means a fifth of your entire business can disappear with a month's notice because a property changed management companies or decided to bring cleaning in-house to cut costs. It's not a slow decline you can course correct. It's a cliff. And you don't see the edge coming until you're already standing on it, staring at a revenue number that just dropped 20% overnight. Let's put a real number on this and see what the difference between running it well and running it badly actually looks like, in dollars, not just percentages. Say a cleaning company doing $720,000 a year in revenue, and we look at unoptimized versus optimized on the exact same top line. Unoptimized version first. Labor sitting at 52% because scheduling is sloppy and crews are burning too much dead time driving between jobs instead of cleaning. That's $374,400. Marketing at 12% because the owner is still leaning hard on paid ads instead of building a referral engine, $86,400. Supplies and vehicle costs running high at 11% from poor route planning and no fuel discipline, $79,200. Insurance and admin at 9%, $64,800. Total costs come to $604,800, leaving $115,200 in profit, about 16% margin. Now the optimized version, same $720,000 in revenue, same market, same services. Labor tightened to 45% through smart routing software and lower staff turnover, $324,000. Marketing down to 6% because 70% of new business now comes from referrals and repeat contracts instead of paid acquisition, $43,200. Supplies and vehicle costs down to 8% through route density and bulk purchasing agreements, $57,600. Insurance and admin held at 8% through better systems and fewer claims, 57,600. Total costs, 482,400, leaving $237,600 in profit. A 33% margin, same revenue, more than double the profit. That entire gap, over $120,000 a year, is operational discipline, not a bigger client list and not luck. Quick pause here, because if this kind of breakdown is actually useful to you, hitting subscribe helps more than you'd probably guess. It's genuinely what tells us which business to take apart next. There's another layer to that hidden trap that people underestimate too, which is regulatory exposure around how you classify your workers. A lot of new owners try to save money early on by treating their cleaners as independent contractors instead of employees because it skips payroll taxes and workers' comp premiums on paper. It feels like free margin. It is not free margin. Most states have gotten aggressive about misclassification enforcement in exactly this industry, because cleaning fits almost none of the legal tests for genuine contractor status. You're setting the schedule, providing the supplies, and directing the work directly. Get caught, and you're looking at back taxes, penalties, and in some states, a lawsuit that can run into 6 figures depending on how long the misclassification went on and how many workers were affected. The owners who structure this properly from day one, even though it costs more upfront, are the ones who don't get blindsided 3 years in by a state labor department audit that wipes out 2 years of profit in one settlement. Now zoom out for a second, because there are real forces reshaping this industry right now that a lot of owners simply aren't paying close enough attention to. Labor keeps getting tighter and more expensive across the board. States keep raising minimum wage thresholds year over year, and that directly compresses the labor line we just walked through in detail. Which means the owners who survive the next decade are the ones building routing efficiency and retention systems now, not later, not once it becomes an emergency. At the same time, commercial real estate is genuinely shifting under everyone's feet. Hybrid work is reducing the square footage that needs daily servicing in a lot of major markets, quietly shrinking one whole segment of commercial demand. While residential demand, especially recurring weekly and biweekly service, keeps climbing steadily as dual-income households end up with less time and more willingness to pay someone else to deal with it. And there's real consolidation happening too, with private equity increasingly rolling up regional cleaning operators into much larger platforms. Which means the independent owners who come out ahead either build recurring revenue solid enough to get acquired at a real multiple down the road, or they stay small and hyper-local with a level of personal service quality that a bigger, clunkier, more corporate platform simply can't replicate at the same price point. So come back to the reframe from the very beginning. You never actually bought vacuums and a client list. You bought a system for manufacturing trust at scale and converting that trust into revenue you don't have to re-earn on every single visit. The real asset in this business was never the equipment, and honestly, it was never even the labor itself. It's the recurring contract and the relationship sitting underneath it. The thing that's still quietly paying you in month 14 for work you already proved you could do back in month 1. That's the entire game, every single time, in every market this business operates in. So is it actually worth owning? Honestly, it comes down to 3 things, and none of them are complicated to understand, just hard to execute. Can you build and retain a workforce that people genuinely trust? Because that's the whole product, full stop. Nothing else you do matters if that part fails. Can you survive the 4 to 6 months of thin, inconsistent cash flow before recurring revenue actually stabilizes? Because that's exactly where most people quit, right before it would have worked out for them. And do you have the discipline to run this like a logistics and systems operation instead of a scrappy side hustle you're winging month to month? Because the gap between 16% margins and 33% margins on identical revenue isn't luck. It's operations, plain and simple. Get those 3 things right, and this is one of the more resilient small businesses you can own anywhere. Recession-resistant, low equipment obsolescence, genuine recurring cash flow that compounds year over year. Get them wrong, and you're just paying yourself minimum wage to manage a crew of people earning minimum wage, doing all the risk and carrying all the liability for none of the actual reward. Either way, Now you actually know what you'd be buying into before you write a single check. And that's more than most people who go looking at this business ever bother to find out for themselves. If you want more of these, stick around. There's plenty more industries left to take apart. And this one only scratches the surface of what's actually sitting under the hood.